Hello everyone and welcome back to the Frozen Inferno. Today we have a busy schedule, so we have to get right on it if we want to tackle the geothermal power plant. First of all, we are going to have to fix the metal refineries. I've heard your warnings and I looked at the data again, and you are completely right. Nectar is definitely not going to be a good coolant for our metal refineries. So we are going to have to replace it. And for that, we are going to come all the way down into the magma biome, where we find, well, no magma anymore because it all converted into igneous rock already. However, we are not actually down here for the magma. We are down here for the hot temperature because we are going to turn some plastic into naphtha. And as suggested, naphtha is a much better coolant for our metal refineries, and we can run steel 24/7 without having to worry about it. We're gonna produce a little bit of plastic just so we have 800 kilos at our disposal and we can fill one of our metal refineries with it. I'm also interested how the carbon dioxide is gonna hold up, because I think, yeah, coming out of here it's already going to take on the surrounding temperature, which means it's actually not going to cause any trouble in our Alveo Vera farm over here. Also, I'm currently in the process of installing a door right here. This was also one of your suggestions. The carbon dioxide vent outputs 136.6 grams per second as an average output, but that is averaged over its complete, over the complete period, including the dormancy period. So when it's active, it's actually going to output a lot more, 507 grams per second, and we might not be able to handle that amount of carbon dioxide at once. So what we're going to do is we'll build in a little bit of a failsafe right here in order to be able to close this area off if too much carbon dioxide accumulates in here too quickly. I'm also using the relative temperature range now. We've locked it in at 0 degrees, so we can identify all the areas that are heating up and potentially cause trouble when melting things. I'm also gonna expand our farms for the time being because our ranches are not up and running just yet, so we are dropping in calories a little bit because we did hire a couple more dupes. Got a scalding message because obviously we opened up this area in the last episode as well, and the carbon dioxide sitting in here is still plenty hot, and we might actually need to put down a triage code for Mima now. I guess it was we're not off to a great start. I'm a little bit rough with my dupes at the moment. We have 800 kilos of plastic now, so for the time being, actually we're gonna leave that on because we are going to need plastic down the line, and the power seems to be able to handle just fine. We do want to access the geothermal power plant in this episode, as I mentioned, so we're also going to go ahead and work our way over there. Just going to come in from here and enter the area. And there it is, the geothermal heat pump. An abandoned geothermal power plant has been discovered. This thing is great. If you haven't already, check out my introductory tutorial to this machine. It's really powerful and the possibilities with it are seemingly endless. We are going to use it to generate us a little bit of power to help us scale up our base through the mid-game a little bit better, because power is going to be what we need the most right now. Now, in order to reconnect it, we are going to need a decent amount of steel, 1200 kilos again, before we can do anything with it. Also, we are probably going to use this vent over here because it's, well, basically nice and reachable for us. The unblocked vent is over here and another one is there. That's actually quite a coin flip as well. I feel like if your vents are not in decent positions, it's actually tough to get the most out of your geothermal heat pump, but I think we kind of lucked out in our case. Now we are going to make some naphtha down here, and in order to get it back up top where we need it, we are going to need a massive pipe run. And since the naphtha is going to be reasonably hot, I want to use igneous rock insulated pipes to pipe it to the top of our base as to not heat anything up. We do need a little bit extra igneous in order to get everything. And we got new printables. Supplying rocketry and suit wearing. That's an interesting one. Because Liam over here could be our dedicated pilot for our space missions later down the line. Supplying rocketry suit wearing are very good together because they will cost him very low morale for all the skills he's going to need. Now, Plant Murderer we don't really care about, and increased food morale bonus actually helps us out as well. So Liam is actually the perfect space pilot. Yeah, welcome to the team, Liam. I didn't really expect taking another dupe so soon in the episode already, but I mean, if you get him, you might as well take him. The DIY code is already assigned to Liam. He can actually stay in this schedule. That's fine by me. In terms of skills, we're gonna give him improved carrying because as long as he's on the ground, he's not actually going to be that useful of a dupe to us. He can just do minor hauling tasks, I guess. Okay, so with Liam on board now, we are also going to immediately make another warm coat for him. Otherwise, yeah, he's going to end up freezing like he does now right now. Once the nectar in here is too hot, we're just going to pump it into our polymer press, and that's gonna get rid of it for us. Right, then we are also going to carry out all the debris from in here, just so we don't get into trouble right there. Alright, our pipe run all the way to our third metal refinery is almost done. We just need to get the last couple of bits in. The same is true for the wire, although that's still lagging behind just slightly. We've also by now uncovered the geothermal heat pump, but we do need to get some more steel to make it operational. Some of the ice melted that was inside of this biome, so don't mind the spillage right there. Once that sand is swept out of the area, we can actually do what we wanted to down here, and that is turn some plastic into naphtha. Now, how we are going to do this is actually relatively easy. We're not going to tap into this area or build any sophisticated automation to heat a metal plate. We're gonna make it much simpler and go ahead and build a temp shift plate out of plastic right here in this area, because temp shift plates have the unique ability to pull heat from diagonal tiles. So once the temp shift plate is constructed here, it will pull heat out of this obsidian tile right here without us having to open the magma biome at all. On top of that, it's going to melt into naphtha at 160 degrees instantly, and it's also going to stop pulling heat from this area because it's no longer a temp shift plate at that point. So it's gonna heat to 160 degrees, probably go a little bit over, then instantly melt, and we are left with a pool of naphtha down here. And the beauty is the temp shift plate requires 800 kilos. And 800 kilos converts into 800 kilos of naphtha, and that's exactly how much liquid we need for our metal refinery. So this method just works out perfectly for the purpose we have right now. Now, why is... we actually have some heat leaking in here. That is a little bit concerning. I think before we build the temp shift plate, I'm actually gonna go ahead and cover myself a little bit by insulating the area slightly, because I don't want to end up overheating the naphtha, since the next step from naphtha is going to be sour gas, and yeah, we don't want to open that can of worms. And we're also going to prepare our steel liquid pump right there. This is just so we don't have any damage to our building, because the naphtha is still going to be quite hot. And there it goes. 159 degrees. And we have exactly 800 kilos of naphtha now. Building melted, as intended. Now luckily it doesn't increase in temperature anymore. The abyssalite seems to have calmed down. Alright, there goes our liquid pump. And there goes our napta. Now the whole pipe run is going to be with insulated pipes, so there should not really be any change in temperature whatsoever, because it is going straight through our base, and it would be terrible if that was heating up everything. What the hell? Why is there liquid sulfur in here? I thought I removed all the debris. What happened there? We are going to place down an emergency liquid filter. Right, so we'll filter out the napta. That is an unfortunate mishap. And there goes the sulfur. And there we go, we're sitting at exactly 800 kilos of napta in there. And now we can produce steel without a worry in the world. We do only have 20 kilos of lime. So we want to crush fossil to lime and eggshell to lime forever. Where are our stations? We will need an exosuit forge. I don't think it quite fits in that position. And in the exosuit forge, we are going to make... making suits out of iron, that just doesn't sit right with me. Maybe we can get our hands on a little bit more copper. We do have some of it over here. Oh god, spicy tofu is following me around again. That's the second time I'm seeing it. I think the game wants to tell me that I need to make spicy tofu this playthrough. And I'm not sure if I like that idea or not. Because at this rate my dupes are going to develop a taste for it. Right, we also want to remove the ice from the area here. I don't like the idea of accumulating more and more ice, and if the area eventually starts heating up, there's going to be instances where the ice might turn. Okay, so to get rid of the ice from the area right here, we're just going to make a auto sweeper conveyor loader setup and ship it over to our Alveo Vera farm. The storage bin currently is full anyway, but this way it's going to be moved out of the area and doesn't cause any issues. Okay, so we are going to access the geothermal heat pump next, and we are also going to utilize the water tank below it that has been supplied for us so generously, because we do need to fill the heat pump with quite a decent amount of water, really. In total, that's going to be 24 tons. And I do want to prepare the area over here and turn it into a, well, geothermal power plant running on 9 steam turbines. Now, at first I was toying with the idea of closing off the top right here and getting rid of the gas that way, but that seems quite tedious at this point because we'd have to one by one build up all the tiles and create a vacuum that way. Instead, we are just going to place down the overall frame and structure of the build and later on get into vacuuming out the area with gas pipes ordinarily. By now we've also accrued 2,200 kilos of steel, so we can go ahead and reconnect the heat pump. And for that, all my dupes need to do is deliver 1,200 kilos of steel right here. And the geothermal heat pump is ready. Success! My duplicants have restored the plumbing system for the geothermal heat pump. That is very nice. And it's operational. Well, technically it's operational. We still need to access the vent. And we still need to demolish all of this area. So there's still quite a lot of things we need to do. We're going to open the gate to hell once more and place down a temp shift plate again, made from plastic. And fill the remaining 2 metal refineries with naphtha as well. I hope this time we don't create liquid sulfur again. I don't know, I didn't see the debris earlier. I thought I've cleared everything out. Maybe the carbon dioxide exchanged heat with the sulfur up here. We'll see if it happens again. If it does happen, it doesn't really matter because we have the liquid overflow in place anyway. Okay, there goes the naphtha again. Carbon dioxide down here is heating up quite a lot. But it doesn't really exchange much heat there, so... yeah, I don't see it. There we go. This time without liquid sulfur. Then we're also going to prepare the next pipe run. We just need something there. We can deconstruct that. I don't even know what that was for. Nope, it happened again. And I don't know where it's coming from, because it's certainly not coming from this one. I don't know why. I have no idea where that liquid sulfur is coming from, but it magically appears there. The game operates in mysterious ways sometimes. I have no idea how this happens. This time I'm actually gonna stay here and have a look at it, because... like, I don't get it. Okay, there's some sulfur sitting right here. That might be the case. Okay, you might be the corpus delicti right here. Yeah, alright. Our liquid, insulated liquid pipe is actually made from granite in the last stretch down here, and that is heating up the sulfur that's lying in that position. Alright, I get it now. And we have to make sure that we don't accidentally overfill one metal refinery. By the way, last episode I said I was a stickler about filling the metal refinery with 800 kilos. You actually have more uptime if you fill the metal refinery with the full loop. I just don't like doing it because mine usually don't run 24/7. So I don't have my coolant sitting up here in the steam chamber for no reason. Not that it really matters, because it's going to equalize with the temperature up here anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It's just my shtick. I can't really explain why I do it this way. Okay. This time we removed the sulfur, so this time there shouldn't be any miracles happening down here. Nope, still happened. I have no idea where that sulfur is coming from, because it seems to be spawning magically from this tile. Because this sulfur over here is still sitting at 41 degrees. There's no sulfur over here anymore. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't see sulfur anywhere. I have no idea. But I don't care. We have our liquid filter to remedy that problem for us. I'm not gonna ask any more questions about that area and just close the portal to hell again. It truly is a portal to hell, because it spawns sulfur. Okay, enough of the sidetracking. We have a lot of stuff to do. Right, the question is, where do we want to come in? I think right here might actually be quite nice. Alright, this is going to be the skeleton of the build. 17 tiles high. I think it was 35 tiles long. Yes. Then 18 tiles from one side and 14 tiles from the other. And what we're going to do is cut off the area here already and trap the gas that is in here, and this way we don't have to vacuum out as much, because if we don't put in the frame, dig out everything already, we're going to run into the issue that everything will pressurize down here and we'll have to pump out a lot more gas than if we close it off already. Now over here we are going to temporarily build a couple of atmosuit docks. We'll use those to work in the vacuum later. As I mentioned in the last episode, I don't want to completely rely on atmosuits yet, but for a build like this it is almost mandatory to have atmosuits, because otherwise your dupes can't work in the environment. Now, you might be tempted to use oxygen masks instead, because obviously dupes could breathe in a vacuum. However, the dupes will still exhale the carbon dioxide with oxygen masks, so they are not as strong as atmosuits. Right, I'm gonna let my dupes finish up the frame right here, probably do a couple of tasks in the background, like producing more steel and more plastic. Alright, so in the meantime, my dupes are sweeping out the area still. Well, they're almost done. But while this is going on, we're going to come in here and actually tap into the fossil over here, because we are not producing any more steel and we still need a decent chunk of it. We still need 2,800 kilos. So we're 2,000 kilos short, and waiting for the eggshells to produce the lime for us doesn't sound very reliable. Also, in the meantime, the carbon dioxide geyser is active again, and basically exactly what you guys predicted happened. A lot of the carbon dioxide spilled out, and we have a little bit of an issue with the airflow down here. I mean, I suspected as much because the area is quite pressurized. One way we could remedy that is if we open it from the other side. We might as well do that for the time being as well. And open up right there, and hopefully some of the oxygen can exit the farm through here and re-enter here. Maybe we'll have to include a liquid lock or move the position of the entrance over to this side. I'm gonna figure this out along the way. That's not really my priority at the moment. We did prepare the 4 atmosuit docks now, so we're gonna go ahead and place down the atmosuit checkpoint made from copper. Place it right there, and then we are only going to allow access for Steve, Stinky, Mima, and Nisbet. And I'm not going to give them the corresponding points for the atmosuit dock or for the atmosuits, because we don't quite have the morale to go alongside it. They're just gonna be slow in there, but that's fine. It's not that big of an area. That's why I wanted to keep the atmosuit docks confined to this area and not as an exit from my base. Alright, so my dupes are going to do the digging, and I'll see you afterwards again. Alright, that is all the area dug out. Well, almost. We did have a little bit of an incident over here. You see, the salt water, or the brine that was in here, actually dropped down to this abyssalite and briefly converted into steam and water. Now I was scared that it would happen over here as well. There's some igneous rock heating up that water, so we might want to get that out as soon as possible. And for that we're going to disable the atmosuit checkpoint, because there is actually still some breathable oxygen in there, and we're gonna send in all the dupes and remove as much of the debris with all the dupes as quickly as possible. So default is going to be allowing everyone to come in here, and I want to get those hot tiles in particular, or that hot debris in particular, out of there before it raises the temperature of the liquid in here even further. Alright, to carry out the last bit, we are going to reactivate this and disable or enable the atmosuit checkpoint again, because the area has filled with carbon dioxide completely. We did end up running out of water up here, and I almost missed it because the geyser is just not enough to fill all of my electrolyzers. So we definitely need to activate our overflow now. Otherwise we are in big trouble, because by now we've already dropped to about 8 kilos of hydrogen. We are not going to drop below 5, but we will run out of power, and we need the power to run all of our base. And the overflow system actually works as intended. That is very good. So as long as this pump is working, there's not going to be any brine from below coming in there. So we have a little bit of a germ epidemic. The priority on the wash basin was set up way too low, and nobody got around to filling or emptying it. And they just spread the germs all around and everywhere. It also got into our food supply. However, the germs are dying off relatively quickly because everything is still pretty cold. And even if a dupe gets sick, we still have some curative tablets. But this can happen. You want your utility, or your main utility, definitely to be on a higher priority, so it gets done first. Because as soon as the base gets a little bit bigger, some tasks might fall behind. Alright, all the debris is out, and I have to admit this took a little bit longer than expected. I actually had to take a break from recording in the meantime, so don't be surprised if my voice sounds a little bit different right now. I'm actually recording the day after. We are going to actually complete our build over here now. And to get us started, we are going to place down our auto sweeper. I guess we'll place it down right here. Then we need a conveyor loader. Right there seems good. Our conveyor rail. Now the only issue we have with the material that's coming out of this chamber is that it's going to be relatively hot. Could actually include it in our cooling loop somehow. But we could make a couple of metal tiles over here. And include that in the cooling loop. Yeah. I think I like that idea. Ah, right, I almost forgot. We still didn't end up vacuuming the area. We do want to go ahead and do that before we continue in here. We are just going to string together those. And we're going to have them pipe their contents right here. We're just going to use high pressure gas vents so we don't have to deal with overpressuring issues. I am an idiot! I completely forgot that you can excavate those fossils as well and get 2000 kilos of fossil from them. It's been quite a while since I've played around with this, so my memories aren't as sharp of it anymore. But that solves our fossil problem altogether, and we don't have to actually wait for the zombie spores to die off. Which they will do eventually, but for the time being, those fossil fragments are a much better option. You do need a dupe with the Masterworks trait again, but since we have one, this is much easier. And there we go. 2 tons of fossil for free. We're gonna do the same over here, and, well, then we have more than enough steel to complete our build. Alright, next up we are going to prepare the cooling loops. We will have 2 cooling loops because we will use nectar as a coolant, and 1 thermal aqua tuner with nectar in it can cool at the most 6 steam turbines. With the hot steam we run, it's going to be a little bit less than that, so we are just going to use 2 thermal aqua tuners. They are not going to run 24/7, so the overall power gain is still going to be quite large. I think it's around 5,000 to 6,000 watts, which in the current state of things is quite a lot for us. The cooling loop itself is relatively simple. We don't have a liquid storage tank to balance out the nectar flow, but it's not mandatory. We're just gonna come down from up here, hop across with a normal overflow system, cool down the transformers. This area later will cut off and actually have it out in the open, so we don't have to cool the liquid shutoff. We're gonna cool the steam turbines on those 2 levels with radiant aluminum pipes, and the rest is going to be igneous rock insulated pipes, or in this case a couple of granite pipes where we don't need the extra cooling but where we also don't need the insulation. Right, and I almost forgot, I wanted to have a little bit of a compartment over here that can cool the debris that we drag out of the area. Per se, that's not really necessary. The debris is going to be around, 200 degrees hot, and just to make it usable without any care where the material comes from. Like, the material is going to lose a lot of its heat if you build something with it, but since we run a very cold planet, I want to avoid any sources of potential disruption to our cold area. Alright, the cooling loop is almost done, and we actually have achieved a vacuum in here. There's no longer any gas sitting in there. So we are going to go ahead and deconstruct all of the gas pumps and the corresponding equipment that was in here. We no longer need it. And before we forget, we are also going to reconnect this vent. Because we do have to encase it soon. And that would be quite a bummer if we didn't connect it, because then we have to break in here again. We're also going to need an atmo sensor in here, because this whole process is not water positive, or we are recycling the water we are using, but we are losing about, I think it was like 500 kilos, a little bit less than that, per rotation. So we are going to need an additional water source, and the atmo sensor is going to help us gauge whether or not there's enough steam in our steam chamber or not. And every time there's not enough in there, we are going to have the liquid shutoff open and bring in a little bit more fresh water. If the water you bring in here is too cold, it will actually drag down the temperature of the steam a lot. Then you would probably want to include a couple of temp shift plates as well. But since we're not really using this salt water over here for anything at the moment anyway, and this is quite hot, I think I will want to use that. And since it already is sitting at around 80 to 90 degrees, the temperature shouldn't drag down too much. So we can't place down all the steam turbines yet, because we don't have enough metal just now. That reminds me, we actually don't even want to place down all of them, because we still need to fill some of the area with nectar. We are going to have to fill both cooling loops, so we'll prepare that right here. Alright, so for our coolant, we are going to use some of the nectar we have stockpiled over here. And we're just gonna pump that down. It's at the moment sitting at minus 22.5 degrees. That's perfect. This will come through here, work its way all the way down. Although we have to make sure that we actually bridge this area, otherwise it won't flow. And it's gonna end up in our cooling loops. Now while that is going on, we can also prepare some of the wires. That's going to be all the wiring done for this area as well. And here comes the nectar. And before I forget, we also want, where is it? 2 liquid pipe thermosensors. Right here and here. We'll set the Atmos sensor to send a green signal at its max range. If I could, I would set it a little bit higher, but since I don't run any mods, I'm not going to. And also, before we can bring any nectar in here, we need to make sure that the floors are not actually overflowing there. For that, we have to finish the lower area first. Those heavy butt joint plates are going to function as a blocker for the nectar we enter now. Just want to make sure that we don't fill it too much. Might actually need a little bit more nectar because we are using quite a lot. There we go, then we can get rid of this. In the meantime, we've also installed the remaining 2 steam turbines up here because it got quite toasty in there. It's actually above 200 degrees. So we are going to close this off, because otherwise some of the heat might actually escape. But with a little bit more effective cooling, this should balance itself out nicely. In the meantime, we've swept out the whole area, so now we can go and finish our build. We did connect the geovent, so we did not forget about that. I'm gonna place mesh tiles right here. Now, mesh tiles don't actually block the ports of steam turbines, so you don't have to worry about that. Let me actually do 1 row first. I want to experiment with the second row of mesh tiles, because in my tests, when I did the tutorial for this build, I actually noticed that sometimes the debris meteor ended up on the other side of a 1 tile wall like this. So maybe if we make it 2 tiles thick, it doesn't actually put the debris in here. If not, there's not much we can do about it. Then we have some debris that we cannot access. But we are here for the power mainly anyway, so that's going to be fine. Also, let's double check we have the wires in place. Cooling is in place as well, and automation is connected too. Because after we close this up, we can't actually get into this area anymore. That's already done, so we can also close off the area right there. Alright, the area on the left is actually encased now, so we can fill that with a little bit of nectar. Now we do have to keep an eye on it not to flood it accidentally. Up here we are sitting at about 60 kilos per tile, so I'm going to strive for something similar down here as well. Doesn't have to be exactly 60 kilos, you just want to have a little bit of mass to soak some of the chill out of the pipes. I think that's looking good already. So we're gonna cut that right here. Now you can have a maximum of 5 steam turbines per pipe run, because they each will output 2 kilos of water per second, which is going to be 10 kilos per tile if you have 5 combined. The overflow right here is going to be a little bit tricky. Because what's basically supposed to happen is the steam turbines bring in the recycled water and then all the way over to the geothermal heat pump. If the geothermal heat pump is backing up, so will the water in here, then it will come over here, overflow, and flow back into our steam chamber. If you don't do this, the steam turbines will back up and not produce any power while the geothermal heat pump is still full. You could equalize the whole thing with the battery box, but since we don't have one in place just yet, and I want to get around to doing that once we redecorate and reconstruct the base a little bit, or we're going to run like this for the time being. Actually, we need to deconstruct this, because we also need some nectar down with the power transformers. Alright, so we got some nectar down with the power transformers, so we are going to close this back up, fill in the rest of the nectar, and then we are basically set. We still need to complete the overflow over on this side, but other than that, it's looking very good. Right, so this looks not very simple. The basic idea is, don't mind the first line over here, because that one we've already dealt with. The interesting part is this one. So we'll have those 4 steam turbines feeding together onto this tile for 8 kilos of liquid per second. Then we're going to jump over with the priority to get the water recycled in the geothermal heat pump. If that jump is not possible because it's backing up, the pipe is going to overflow down here and up into this liquid bridge. That's facing downward, so it's going to overflow up and down and to the left and back into the liquid vent. And the reason we need so many bridges here has to do with the liquid shutoff, because this has a green output in this direction, and if we just put the overflow onto the same lane as the green output, it's actually not going to overflow, so we do need a bridge. If this bridge mumbo-jumbo over here doesn't exactly make sense to you, you can always check out my tutorial. I think I do a better job of explaining it there. Right, so the nectar is in place. The pipes are in place. All the cables are in place. Automation, everything looks done to me. Alright, so the next step is going to be filling the geothermal heat pump with water. We have a nice little pool at the bottom right there, so we'll fill it with 3 pipe runs. The actual inputs right here don't correspond to the individual vents, but instead it's just a way to fill the machine faster. Once the geothermal heat pump is full for the first time, we are going to go ahead and disable all the steam turbines. Now the reason why we turn off the steam turbines now is to fill this chamber with the full 12 tons the geothermal heat pump is going to provide for us. Then we're going to fill it again, and after the second filling we'll activate the steam turbines. This way we have a decent amount of steam inside the chamber at all times and only need to top it off occasionally. Now I do want to get in here and sweep out the rest, and don't forget closing off this tile, otherwise we are going to have a huge mess in here. I think we can actually start filling this up now. Right, so as you can see, it's slowly filling up until it reaches 12 tons. Now it's not going to immediately activate the geo vent over here. Instead, we'll have to activate it manually. After that, it will always activate with all connected geo vents every time it is full. So in order to stop the machine from outputting anything else, you also have to stop the inputs. Alright, let's go. Geothermal power plant initiate. We can now activate the power plant. And for that, all we need to do is click activate power plant. And there it goes. Now we did deactivate all the steam turbines, as I mentioned, so the steam in here is just going to accumulate. Obviously it has to raise the temperature of all the buildings, so there's going to be a little bit of water as well. Oh, and we actually never finished the pipe run right there. We definitely want to get around to doing that. Right, while this is outputting, we are also going to fill the heat pump a second time. Now with 3 pipe runs, all containing 10 kilos of water per pocket, this is going to fill up a lot faster than this geovent is going to output the steam. So we can easily cut this off and prevent it from filling another time. By then we'll also have finished our pipe run leading into the heat pump. And we're almost ready to produce power. Right now we can also set up the liquid pipe thermosensors to send a green signal whenever the temperature is, let's say, above 20 degrees. We could go up to 70 because our power transformer are the limiting factor here. Anything below 100 would be fine if we had made them out of steel as well. So we just need to go below 70, but I like to set it a little bit lower because we also need to account for the very brief cooling run we have here for our debris that we get out of the area. The heat pump is almost filled up again. There we go, 99. I think that's going to be enough, so we are going to cut all of these. There's probably some water sitting in there still. Yeah, a little bit of water, that's completely fine. Gonna cut that right there. Hook that up like so. This way it is connected to the recycling line we have set up. And since we're almost ready with the geovent right here, we might actually activate the steam turbines in a second. As you can see, the steam in here is actually not above 200 degrees yet, because our input water was sitting at around 30 degrees. So after a couple of cycles, this will ramp up to 100%. Alright, so the pressure in here is looking very good already, above 55 kilos per tile. So we're gonna go ahead and start enabling the steam turbines. We want to do this just before the geovent activates for the second time, because we do need to fill the heat pump with the recycled water this time. There's still about 1 ton remaining in there. And here goes the water. It's going to backfill a little bit until this vent opens up again for us. Oh, we have not built that tile yet. I guess we'll see if the overflow works right here. Okay, right here it does work. And now the heat pump actually engages for the second time. And we have the second set of 12 tons coming in. There we go. That should engage the backflow if necessary. We're going to keep an eye on that. And down here we are going to activate the power to the thermo aqua tuners. The temperature is still centered around 0 degrees. But for the time being we have no problem whatsoever in here. Really nice. Once the geovent activates for the third time, the steam is going to raise dramatically in temperature. And why are you not working? Oh. We didn't actually build that last piece of insulated pipe, so I can't output any of the liquid. Alright, so our power plant is not fully operational just yet. It's gonna take a couple of cycles until it heats up the steam chamber to 200 or actually above 200 degrees. However, we have everything in place now to produce about 5 to 6, 7,000 watts, depending on how often the aqua tuner turn on. However, we are not using this power just yet, because as you can see over here, our heavy watt joint plate is actually not hooked up to anything. Unfortunately, I'm all out of time for this episode. We are going to have to do that in the next one. As always, I really hope you enjoyed the episode, and until the next one. Bye!